So I hope you had a good go yourself at creating some kind of product website. I think the best way in order for me to show you the process of setting something up, rather than me trying to just emulate what I've created here, I'm going to create another one from scratch that has the basics of what I think we should have. So essentially we're just going to be starting off with having getbootstrap.com, and then also I've just got my empty HTML and my CSS page, and we're just going to get started from here. So the first thing I'm going to do is obviously create my HTML, and within that I'm going to be adding the Bootstrap CSS and the JavaScript. So this is kind of the first thing you want to try and do. And then I've got my own product.css as well. I'm going to link that here as well. Obviously, like I've said before, I link it underneath the Bootstrap. So I just put product.css here, and then I copy this stuff. Fantastic, now we're good to go. Let's just get that indented a bit nicer. So now that I've done that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add myself a navigation bar. So I'm going to go to Components, and I'm going to go to Navigation Bar. And I reckon for this site, what sort of product should I create? Let's say I'm creating I'll have a think about it. First of all, I'm just going to add in a navigation bar. So this one looks fine. I don't want to make it too complicated. I don't really want drop downs disabled or search bars. So what I might just do is copy this over, like so, and then just remove the parts that I don't want. So in the body, I'm just going to add this here. Okay. Where are we? Yeah. Make sure this is all indented. Okay. So as you can see, we have at the top this nav tag, and that's we discussed this previously. It's kind of just a way of saying, right, this is our navigation bar. It's not necessarily important, but it's very helpful, especially in Bootstrap. So we're obviously going to leave that. So the ones that we don't want are the drop down. So let's find drop down. Here we are, class equals nav item drop down. So I'm just going to delete this whole list here. And then I'm also, the one below it looks like it is the disabled one, so I'm going to get rid of that one. And then the search looks to be right below it as well. So I'm just going to delete all of this. That should be fine. So let's just make sure that's looking okay now. What are we running here? Okay, so we're running our new one. So here we go. Okay, that looks fine. I want to have maybe 4 links up there. So I'm just going to copy over 2 more. So I'm just going to take this link one and just duplicate it. A bit nicer than that maybe. There we go. So this one's going to be called, let's say, about team and contact. Okay. So I've decided to call this, so the product's going to be some software that can create new music. So that's what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to call it, I don't know, like Muse site, because it's a website and it gets its muse from technology. I don't know. It's not a complete idea, let's say. Okay, we'll leave it at that for now. I do want to change the background color at some point, but for now let's just add the basic components. So we have a navigation bar, that's looking fine. I might add some padding so that it's spaced out a bit more and change the background color, because I think that might look a bit nicer. The next thing I'd like to do, I always like to have a Jumbotron, because it's something that's in your face. It can introduce everything very well, and it gives, a call to action here, which is really useful. So I really like Jumbotrons. I find them very, very good to have on your homepage. So, but it's all down to taste. So you do whatever you like. So I'm just going to add this here. Okay, and instead of it saying hello world, I'm going to be welcome to Muse site. and then change this text. I'm going to write in music made by humans is over appreciated. Let the computers do the hard work. Obviously I don't necessarily agree with this. This is all just for fun. So let's just see how this looks so far. I'm just going to put that on one side like that. So as you can see, what's really cool here is with the navbar is when I've made it smaller, it's already been able to do this for us. So it's just so cool. It's completely responsive. So that's cool. And this is our Jumbotron. Welcome to MuseSite, made by Memes. Okay, cool. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to put with a team of professionals, we have created the best product ever. Want to get involved? And I'm just going to do sign up now. That should be in the button. And I can tell that because as we look here, we've got anchor, so that's definitely a link. And then we're using a class called button primary, button large, role equals button. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be the right thing. Excellent. So now we have the beginnings of our site. So underneath this, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add some cards. So pretty much cards are very useful things. I'm just going to make this full screen actually, it makes it a bit easier. You'll see what cards are in a second. I think I've already shown them to you. So these are what cards are. And I want to have 3 of them lining up horizontally next to each other. So let's just get that. Okay, I'm just going to indent this so it looks a bit nicer. That's more like it. Okay. So now let's refresh the page. Okay, so far we have 3 cards. They don't have any images, so it looks a bit weird, and they're not lining up next to each other, and I would like them to have a different background color as well. So there's a lot of things we can do here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the contents in first here, and then I'm going to do the styling afterwards. Everyone has the different process. What I kind of like to do is I like to add in the hard contents, and then I like to style it afterwards. So for these 3 cards, I'm just going to put something very quickly. I'm going to put actually a little header here, H2, saying the power of MuseSite. And then each of these cards are going to say why MuseSite is so good. So let's say quick, because it's quick and easy to make. Let's say 10 seconds is all it takes to make a song with our site. And then the button is going to be sign up or try for free, let's say. Underneath, let's go for cheap. Then we can say our flexible subscription rates means you can make AI music for cheap. And then see prices. Can you tell that I've written a few websites before? Okay, so let's see, it saves you time, saves you money, and be part of the future. AI is great. So how can anyone not agree with that? And this button's just going to say agree. When they click that button, they'll give us all their money. Okay, cool. So this is looking a bit better now. We've got everything we want, all the content. all I want to have now at the bottom is some kind of footer. Now you'll notice that actually in Bootstrap they don't offer a standard footer. So what I find is the best thing to do if I'm wanting to make this quite quickly is I'll essentially just go onto my search engine and I'll literally just search for Bootstrap footer and then see what comes up. Because usually what comes up is, for example, MD Bootstrap or something like this. All of these tend to have some pretty good footers that you can just copy the code over and have a go with. So let's have a look at what this guy has to offer. So this is mdbootstrap.com. So that looks quite cool. I want something relatively simple, not too many links like that. Maybe like a search bar or something would look good. Perfect. So here you can have a search bar and a sign up. So I'm going to copy this over. And just underneath here, as you can see, usually has quite a lot of content, and they're very helpfully added in some comments here. So this is the footer elements, and they're using the grid here, which is cool. So if I refresh now, just underneath we now have our sign up as well and our search, which we can type into. So that's very cool. So I'd say this is all we really want for our product page. We just want it to look a bit nicer now. So let's get started with the navbar. So here we have our, let's go for, because we're only using one navbar, I'm tempted just to change the whole thing here. So I'm going to go into my CSS and use the class navbar. Remember, you have to use that dot at the start in order to say it's a class. And let's go for background color black just for now, just to make sure it's working. Now as you see, nothing has actually changed when I've restarted this. So what's happening here? So essentially I've looked at the class and I've decided to go for navbar, and I've put in the class right, I've put in the background color of red, but it's not appearing. So I did a bit of looking, and so the reason why it's difficult, and this is a really good thing to keep in mind, is that in the class, if it looks like the final thing here, the final class, refers to some kind of color, that might be getting in the way of actually getting your custom CSS to be working. Obviously it looks like I'm putting my CSS file after the Bootstrap one, so that's working fine. So let's see what happens if I remove this. Okay, so now it's working, fantastic. So all I've had to do here is I've just removed this BG light. So there's another option I could use, which is a bit more hacky and is kind of preferable to avoid it, but so let's just change this back so you can see that it's stopped working. So if you put at the end of this after red, you put exclamation mark important, this is kind of like saying override anything else. And that will still work. It's just, so that's only really to be used if you really can't find any other solution. So don't use that too often. So all I've done really is I've just removed this BG-light, and now that seems to be working. So now let's get a nicer color though. I still want it to be quite a light color. HTML color picker. Let's just go with this one for now. Oh yeah, that looks absolutely fine. I'm going to go with this one. Let's change that from red to this. Perfect. Okay, great. And then I'm going to add some padding for, let's see, where have we got it? Each of these list items. So that is nav-item. So let's add that in down here. So there's a class, so dot, then nav-item. Okay, and I'm going to have some padding. Let's just say to the right. Yeah, that'll be good. Let's say 20px. Okay, yeah, that's looking a bit better. I might even add a little separator in between them. So I'm going to put border, just the right side of their border. I want to be really, really not too big, but just so you can see a little bit, red. So this is like I'm creating a border, but I'm just doing it for the right hand side of each of these. And yeah, that looks okay. I mean, it could look better, but I think that'll do for now. Okay, so let's get on to our Jumbotron. That's looking nice. I won't change too much about that for now. What I might do is add a background image to that in a second. So let's go on to the cards for now. So I want these all to be lined up to the right horizontally. So this is where we're going to start using our grids. So all we need to do is to add all this into a container and then put them into a row and then separate them with the old columns that we were doing before. So first thing we're going to do is create a div with class container, and then within this we want to create a row. Class equals row, and then we can put one of these, for example. So let's take this one. We just want to create one more div, which is class equals col, then dash, and we want to have it for a medium-sized screen, let's say, and we want to have 3 of these cards lined up next to each other. So we do 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So we want this column to cover 4, and then we just add each of these. So let's make sure we get these divs right. Sometimes it's a bit hard, so we want to get it on this lining. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. So then we add the next one in here. And we do another div. And then class is col dash md dash 4. Let's add one more as well. Col dash md dash 4. Okay, fantastic. Now what we need to do is put these in those. So put this one here. And let's take this one. Put it in here. Then if I refresh the page, fantastic. Now they're all lined up next to each other. So we've pretty much got everything we want here. All that's left to do is to add a background image here, images into these ones, and then we should be ready to launch the site. Not really, we're not going to launch this. So let's go for adding in the background image first. So first of all, let's get ourselves a nice image. So I'm going to do Jumbotron AI image. Let's see if anything useful comes up. So nothing looking too useful. Let's go for Jumbotron AI image Bootstrap. Okay, let's go for technology. Nothing too great. Let's just go for a Jumbotron image. Let's go for this one. Why not? Save image. Let's go. So we don't want to be in CSS practice. We want to go to Bootstrap practice. And we'll just call this Jumbotron.jpg. Actually, we just put it as Jumbotron. It'll do that automatically. Okay, and then let's add this image into our Jumbotron. So essentially we need to do this in the CSS. So all we need to do here is just find the class. So the class is Jumbotron, easy enough. So dot Jumbotron. Then we need to put in background image as our property. It's this one here. And then we just put URL, then in brackets, the name of the file, which is Jumbotron.jpg. Right, let's see if this has worked. Okay, fantastic. That looks okay. So we might want to make our font a bit brighter. So let's go for a different color with that. Let's go for the color orange. So within the Jumbotron, let's say the color is going to be orange. So you'll see now that none of it's working at all. So what we need to do now is we need to specify it just for the Jumbotron paragraph. And then for the header as well. So we remove this from here. We add this in here, and let's add a background color as well. oops, background color. Let's just have it as white for now. Why not? And let's do the same thing for the, I believe it's a H1 or H2. Let's see, H1, there we go. So then we're specifying the elements within the Jumbotron just to have. So like we were talking about the parent-child before. Okay, that is good enough for now. Fantastic. And finally for the cards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove those images, and I'm just going to have instead a nice background color. So here we are. We can just move these. We can literally just delete these lines. Great. And then for class card, save that. Then we want to style the class card, so dot card. And then we'll just have a background color of, let's go for blue for now. Okay, I mean, that doesn't really work too well, so let's just go for a light yellow. So at least it's readable for now. Okay, fantastic. So obviously there are much more things that we could do to improve how the site looks. So for example, we can improve the borders. I don't think the background color is fantastic there. And we could probably do something here to maybe make this look a bit nicer, maybe increase the opacity. That could look nice. But yeah, all in all, we've got a good start to an introductory website. So just to go over the main points of what we've done here. So what's important, we've really gone into Bootstrap. We've had to think about what we want to add to our site. So we added in a nav bar and a Jumbotron, and then we added in some cards. Now what's important with the cards is that we added them into a container and a row, and then we used the grid system in Bootstrap. To separate them, we gave them 4 columns each, so they lined up, each of them by a third of the page, and it looks quite nice. For the footer, what we did is we simply Googled Bootstrap footer, and then we found some suitable code online that someone else was sharing. And we've got the makings of a good product page to begin with. So hopefully that's all made sense to you. I recommend, if you haven't already had a go at creating your site, just give it a go now. Add in a few of these different components, see if you can play around with them, even change some of the properties of them, style it a bit differently, and then I'll see you in the next lecture.